Hi, I'm Libluini again. And it continues. Messages this time. A funny run from Bulgarus and a more threatening run from Pangea. Apparently, Pangea's player thinks one swift kick will bring Bulgarus down. And in Bulgarus, player Moro gives up and turns over to player Ramk. Or Ramsey, or however he wants it to be pronounced. So, a mediocre player replaced by a good but chaotic one. Well, let's see how this goes. At least this means Ramk wasn't responsible for this weird affair of seeking arrow attitude. Oh god, what a horrible what monster I've created. And my pale ones have done one thing right. They've opened up this probably empty castle. And next turn it will belong to us. Wrath of God is still doing shit to us, and in turn we can do jack and shit. About Garth's many globals. Only thing left is equipping our forces. In this case, I had a brilliant idea to equip some of our guys with more air gear, simply because, well, they can cast nifty spells and they get, of course, Staff of Storms. Well, if I forgot to give them Staff of Storms, they can still cast Storm on their own. And this means that most enemy flyers will be unable to fly, while my own giant monsters have zero trouble with it. And anyway, most of my normal units have this weird little symbol looking a bit like a dark grey Stormcloud. So for the 1-2 seconds I allowed you to see it. And this means they can also fly in a storm, which is a really good tactical advantage. And as you see, I've started to forge staffs, just in case I'm running out of gems, air gems I mean in this case, since I'm alchemizing so many of them into astral pearls and then into death gems. I'm probably not really sure that I will always have enough air gems to cast Storm, and besides that, having an item giving you a spell is always better, because this way the spell will already be active, especially in this case. It's in this description of Staff of Storms, see? It basically means this spell called Storm will be active when the battle starts, so no waiting for my poor spellcaster to actually cast it. There are some neat little tricks you can do to prevent an enemy caster from casting, if you know what is coming. And I'm guessing after the third or fourth battle, Bulgarus will learn to do something about this. And just in case those experimental armies actually survive that long, it would be nice if they are still under storm protection at this point. One drawback of this storm shit is, of course, all my archers will suddenly have real trouble hitting something, since storms are also influencing archers and our long range units. But in the armies where I have archers, there are tons and tons of them, and it's kind of hard to miss the tons and tons of enemy units. That's one of the strange things in this gimmick game, with both sides of the battlefields filled to the brim with units. It kind of doesn't mean anything if your archers suddenly are shit at hitting stuff, since even if they are all missed, they will still hit something on the enemy side perfectly. The trouble only starts if both armies tend to get mixed up in the middle, but in this case, even if they hit something, they would probably still create a lot of friendly fire incidents. That's what makes this game so hilarious. Even the perfect spells can do this shit sometimes. There's nothing more aggravating than seeing 10 thunder strikes all just miss the enemy unit you're targeting. That's always funny. Annoying, but also funny. There are still tons and tons of mages. I have to rename or at least look up to see if I can use them in my armies. And there's still tons of scripting to do. I think next turn is even more horrible. Next turn there is something absurd like 45 minutes of recording footage again. That's definitely a no-go. I will try my best to cut it down to at least something manageable like 20 minutes or so. And that's the most important stuff handled, I think. Now let's see what I did all these months ago. I'm still kind of wondering why I didn't go insane when scripting all this dumb bullshit. Well, we are getting closer to an actual attack. My strategic plan for now is to attack as many enemy provinces at the same time as possible, just to create some kind of psychological shock, to see I am here and I am dangerous, just to make sure that one of two things happens. Either case A happens, Borger's player will be intimidated and get one step closer to giving up. Maybe he will even commit some grave errors when trying to fight us. He will be demoralized. Or case B will happen. He will take me seriously, and armies and strong forces will be taken from the front of fighting against Garth and sent against me. Which is kind of shit, of course, but in long term it means Garth's giant hordes of vampires will carve through the northern areas, and I still have enough chaff and mages to hold out even against most of Borger's forces if that happens. So obviously both cases will be good for the Alliance, even of course I am hoping secretly or case A will happen. So as you just noticed, by the way, I've just given my pretender a new item to give him more protection against magic, to hasten his magic resistance, because I have plans with my pretender. There is a reason I gave him level 9 death and then a skull mask to even strengthen his death magic to 10. I think 10 is even the highest it can go. There is no level 11. 10 is the absolute maximum. That's like level 99 in a JRPG. That's the highest you can ever get. And this means I have plans. So much plans. I would like to talk to us about them now, of course, but then I wouldn't have to talk anything about when the time comes in later turns. So I have to try to hold back for now. Besides, it's still not time. So instead my level 10 pretender will do its best to cast some of the nastier conjuration spells like Tartarian Gate and see what kind of creepy death evil will crawl out. Hopefully something good, or at least something weird. Next thing I'm doing here is trying to outfit as many of my leaders with Weinbecks to try and get my supply usage lower. One of the interesting things I found out in this game, there is apparently some weird glitch or cap as to how many supply you can neutralize this way. I noticed that after a certain point of equipping leaders with Weinbecks, my supply usage stopped going down, regardless of what I was doing. I was kind of pissed at first when this happened, but then I saw the good thing, because it made me take all those superfluous Weinbecks and gave them to other armies, where they were still useful. And this way, if some kind of defeat happened, I lost only a fraction of all this crap instead of having to forge everything new. And of course this meant I could suddenly equip twice as many armies as beforehand. Okay, technically you could point out it's still this meant many starving armies instead of hitting my earlier goal of stopping starvation. But in these kinds of gimmick games, every little bit helps. And if you have something absurd like 900 supply points usage and can get it to something like 700, it helps already. Suddenly you can get through more provinces without hitting starvation, and that's sometimes enough. Nothing is ever perfect in Dominions 4. Of course, in normal games you sometimes can combine positive supply effects and get something absurd like negative supply, which means essentially you giving supplies instead of using it up. And this is kind of useful, of course. It means sometimes if you can create astonishingly large armies with something funny like 0 supply usage. I mean the soaked earth. You just saw that, right? Minus 340, because every single one of those weird astrals / nature mages has also a small bonus to supplies. So since I've since I recruited them since almost the beginning of the game, and there are a shitload of them now, there is now, instead of using supplies, or a giant minus. Essentially this means I've had to put a large army here even to get down to 0 usage. The sad thing is, of course, negative supply usage has no effect, no bonus or anything. In Dominions 4 you can either have enough or not enough. The game doesn't care if you pile up supplies until you have recreated the Tower of Babel just with food. The game sadly does not care. So this is basically a huge waste, but well, I don't want to use this giant stack of researchers yet, so I guess I just have to live with this funny little bit. Well, as you can see, most of them have Skull Mentors, so they have a huge bonus to research. They have basically helped me out here, because in most games I tend to lag behind in research. Either because I've started too late recruiting mages, or because I used too many mages in battles already, or what sometimes also happened, because I just used too many of them trying to site search, so I'm not also falling behind in game economy. Of course, I'm often quite unlucky, so both doesn't really help. The one funny thing is, as long as you make a careful plan of which spells you want to use and which not, it's still enough if you lag a little bit behind. You just have to prevent yourself from falling back like you have, I don't know what would be a good analogy, something really stupid to something really smart. Well, it's a little bit like this. If you are good in research, you're basically the United States of America of magic. If you're a little bit worse, you're something like the European Union of magic, just in terms of research now, nothing else. And if you lag a lot behind, then you end up like North Korea, basically retarded. No research at all, and people are fearing dumb shit like disks, floppies. Shit, I don't even know exactly how those old things are called in English. Fuck it. Well, I still haven't yet Tartarian Gate, because that's in another school, not Conjuration. But it's just one turn or something now. Then I can start releasing crazy titans from hell and death, stuff like this. And I have a pretender actually high enough. And I'm just reinforcing my main army up in the capital with a Legion of Lights. That's 20 plus some extra if you have high enough depth. don't even know where right at the moment, but 20 whites alone are a nice little support force for my mostly still living Chaff units. And of course, I have now 29 skeleton riders. Additionally, they are kind of a shock force only, with fear effects. They are really good against living units, kind of mediocre against everything immune to fear, and they have this one drawback that since they have just 5 hit points, they tend to die really fast. But I plan on just sending them into the rear every time until they are dead. Their main thing is to create a bit of chaos, a bit of enemy casualties, and if I'm lucky, some of them will survive and get behind the enemy lines and can slaughter enemy commanders and mages. It's a long shot, I know, but when it works really well. And here is Rigor Mortis. That's a nice little spell, hurting everyone, basically making them stiff and hard to move. Game mechanically, it means living enemy units will suddenly have trouble moving, their encumbrance will skyrocket, their accumulating fatigue, that's what I wanted to call it. They're getting tired really fast, and they will die really fast to you. The last spell in that scripting line is Darkness. Darkness basically makes just the entire battlefield dark, and everyone who can't see in the darkness will suddenly fight like shit and be easy prey for everything else. Spells like this are the main reason why it's a bad idea to combine living armies and undead mages. Death magic is kind of really nasty to everything living, even on your own side if you're not careful. Especially with spells like Darkness, because it's not magically bright day for your side. Darkness doesn't work that way, it hits both sides. Well, anyway, another thing, I'm still hoping secretly that one day I can cast Utter Dark, because that would mean I have another spell slot for something else ready, because obviously if there's Eternal Darkness everywhere, I don't need to cast Darkness in a battle. Another spell I'm using here is Terror. It only works of course against living units who can feel fear, but it's a nice extra after making everyone stiff and tired and then making the sun go away for a while. Soul Vortex is just a combination of protection spell, buff spell, and damage spell. There is another version which works more like some kind of magical artillery field, but Soul Vortex is the weaker version, where you only have a field of death right around the mage itself, sucking life force out of units who come too close and then giving this life force to the mage itself. And I think it comes with the same creepy bullshit like letting killed enemy units stand up again as undead under your own control. Most spells using death energy have some creepy add-on like this. If you're killed, you're suddenly reborn as enemy undead. Well, you know what I mean. All this creepy side changing has only just begun, of course. There are a lot of really nasty spells in our future, but right now I'm still waiting for our new armies to combine, for last gear to be forged, and for our last fortresses to be finished. But this is now over. Shit, I'm like 10 seconds too early again. Man, you'd think after so many videos I would slowly pace myself better, but well, fuck it. It's over now. Next turn I'm back again. Lipluini. Oh,